Hi everyone, welcome back to Garden on the Moors. We're in the middle of winter and that's a perfect time for us to be planting different things ready for the next year. What we're going to plant today are some fruit, so let's go take a look. Before we plant the strawberries, we obviously need to prepare where they're going to go. So I'll just show you where I'm going to make the bed for them. So it's going to be in front of the greenhouse here. We've got a little lean-to greenhouse. And you may notice, since our previous videos, that this end has got slightly fresher plastic roof to that end. That's because the dog decided it would be a great laugh to try and chase a little jackdaw on top of our roof up there. So he jumped up and went straight through the old roof. He was fine, just a bit of a bruised ego, but the greenhouse didn't survive, so we've had to obviously put up a new greenhouse glass panel up there. It's just corrugated plastic. So just to the side, I've got rhubarb, which I've mulched with some of the old chicken bedding, chicken manure. I've got some strawberry plants that haven't been very happy where they are, and some strawberry runners. And I'm going to plant them in front of this greenhouse here because it's a bit of a dead space. Don't really do anything, and the strawberries will be they'll just stay growing quite low, so they won't impact on anything growing in the greenhouse. Oh, hello Alex. Right boy. So that's the plan then. What I'm going to do is measure out from the edge of that coal shed. Do you see there? That's an old coal shed. And I'm going to try and get my border in line with that. So yeah, that's the first job on the list. That's really good. So we've got the bed cleared now of turf. So just taking the top layer of turf, clean off any weeds. What I'm going to do now is get some of the old chicken manure from the garden and some bloodfish and bone, and mix that all into the compost that's here now, so that the strawberries, when they go in, they've got all the nutrients they could possibly need to see them fruit next year in the summer. Here are my tubs of well-rotted chicken manure. Lovely stuff in there. So, like I said, all I've got to do is pop some bloodfish and bone into that little new border. Well, not little, it's quite a good size actually, I'd say. But pop some bloodfish and bone into that, and then tip the manure in these pots and dig it all in. Well, that's it for today. We can't plant the strawberries in the ground yet because the forecast is looking pretty chilly. So what they're saying is down to -3, which is that's a real hard frost for us. So I think what would be best is to wait till it's slightly milder, perhaps about nighttime degrees of like 5 to 8, and then we'll put the strawberries out into the ground, and there'll be less shock then, and also they won't struggle so much to put their roots out. So that's the plan. I'm really happy with what we've got done so far today, and we'll pick it up when it's a bit warmer. The cold snap we had has finally passed, which means that we can put the strawberries into their new home. The first ones we're going to take are from the front of the flower bed here. These strawberries have never been particularly very happy. They have sort of grown, but not really done very much. They haven't really fruited, so we're going to try them in a new spot. So let's dig them up. This is a variety called Cambridge Favourite. See, it's got some nice new growth coming on there, and some old growth as well. It's quite an old plant. Around it, we've got these smaller strawberries, which are wild strawberries, which just grow like a weed. So we're not too bothered about them, they just grow anywhere anyways. And there's a few other flowers nearby, which getting rid of these will mean that everybody has more space. So what I'm going to do is just dig down and hopefully dig up all of the root this is quite shallow soil, which is probably one of the reasons why they haven't been particularly happy. There we are. Let's brush off some of the soil. So there we have it. I just take off the weeds. They're in there. But there we have our first plant, strawberry plant, ready to be moved to its new home. Okay, so that's all of the strawberries dug out of this flower bed. All in all, we had 22 plants, which is really good. I think I put in about a dozen. So there'll be those 12 which were originally in there, they're the bigger plants. And then there are little offshoots. They send out runners, like a spider plant at home if you've got any of them. But it sends out little runners, so I've probably got another 10 of those just already here, which is really good. And we'll combine them with the ones we've got in the greenhouse as well. Go on. So we've got the strawberry bed here that I dug a couple of weeks ago now, which you would have seen earlier in the video. After that, we had a super cold snap. We've never seen anything like it here. It was down to minus 4, minus 5 degrees, which is just crazy. And but now it's all milded out, it's all melted, the frost is gone, and the ground is much softer. That's actually quite good for a new bed. The frost will break up those big clumps of soil and make it easier for the plants to get into, which is really good. If I was doing this as a quite strict gardener, I might break this up into 3 sections and have my first set of strawberries in the first third, wait a year and then plant the next third, wait another year and do the final third, because strawberries apparently are their very best in their second year of growth. I've got a lot of strawberries of all different ages. I don't know what age they all are, so I'm just going to put them in and hope for the best. And I mean, that's what a lot of gardeners would actually do, because you want the biggest reward you can get. So what I'll probably do is plant them in the ground, let them do their thing for a couple of years, and then refresh them in a few years' time, and that'd be absolutely fine. So to plant them, I've got my little trowel, I've got my measuring stick. They need to be about 30 to 40 centimetres apart, which my measuring stick is 30 centimetres. And then I just got to get my first plant, which this looks like quite a young one because its roots aren't that big. They are very deep. And make a little space for it into the ground. And pop them in. Now it doesn't want to be too deep. It wants to be, because it can rot. So you need to keep the eye above ground. So this is the eye, this little bit here where all the new growth's coming from. So we've got a nice new leaf there, a couple of new leaves there, and this is where it's all coming from. We need to make sure that this is above ground. And that's the row done. Now, even though it's raining, I'll still give these a quick watering just to settle the soil. But other than that, they won't need any care till about, well, spring, summertime now. And hopefully we'll get some lovely fruit off of them. Winter is also a brilliant time to plant trees and things like that because you can buy them bare root, which is brilliant because it's a lot cheaper. You haven't got to worry about getting the soil and that delivered as well as the tree, and it's a bit more environmentally friendly because you haven't got, like I said, as much weight going around when they're travelling. They also should establish much quicker because they're dormant, so they're not trying to grow at the minute. They're just sitting there, chilling out, focusing on just, you know, holding tight, ready for spring. And this way we're going to put them into the ground and they'll bring out new roots, which will then get well established into the soil. I've got 2 fruit trees here. So I've got this Comice Pear, which should give us nice, large, juicy dessert pears. And I also have a Cornish Aromatic apple, which should give us also dessert apples, which that means that we'll be able to eat them straight off the plant. There's a couple of things with bare root trees and plants in general that you need to bear in mind. The first is that they probably lost some of their hydration, some of their quality during transit. So I know that these ones have been dug up a couple of weeks ago. So what I've done is soak them in buckets overnight. So they've had a really good soak in, so they're nice and happy to go in now. But yeah, let's go get them planted. First things first, we need a hole. Ideally, we want a square hole for around roots. I don't know why, but, well, I do know why actually. It's so that when the roots start going out, they don't hit a compacted circle, they'll hit corners, and then they'll hopefully be more likely to go into those corners and spread out far and wide, which is ideally what we want. Now, I'm quite happy with the soil there. I think it's a nice sort of, it looks like it's got lots of nice material in it, like loamy, not too clayey or anything like that, too claggy or nothing. All I am going to add is some blood, fish and bone, which I like to add just to put some extra nutrients into the ground. So we'll do that first of all. Sprinkle, sprinkle. And mix that in. Just as a nice little treat for our new tree. Now then, I've got my tree in the bucket. Now what we need to do is make sure that the roots have plenty of room in there. Also think about how the tree is going to sit in the ground. Like that. Now then, we've got a few things here to bear in mind. So this little knob is the graft. So this is the rootstock, and this is the tree stock, I suppose. So this is some nice healthy roots of the, I don't know if we can, it's MM106 rootstock. So that's going to determine the size and the vigour of the plant, this part here and the roots. This bit is the actual fruit itself, tree. And it's taken from a cutting, stuck onto some nice roots, and it'll go from there. That's because apple trees don't grow true from seed. So if we want this Cornish aromatic apple to grow as a Cornish aromatic, we have to take a cutting and stick it onto this graft. That's the first thing to bear in mind. And also that this mustn't go below the soil, it has to stay above, because we don't want this setting roots. So we keep it above the ground. The next thing is to look for where it used to be, where the old ground level used to be. So where the old mud would have been. Now, even though I've soaked this for overnight, I can still see that the soil would have been about there. So that's where I want it to be in the ground, about like that. And the roots have plenty of room in there. So all I need to do now is just start putting some of the compost in, the soil back in, and then I'm going to give it a little shake to make sure that there's no air gaps, because if there's air gaps around the roots, they'll just rot. So dig it in nicely, making sure that I'm keeping the soil level where it's going to end up being. So it's about there, so maybe a bit higher, like that, and press it in. Now that's all the roots covered, so I can just start topping it up around the way. Now that's pretty much all of it in, so before I do any more, I'm just going to gently press it in with my boot. I don't want to break any roots. All I want to do is just make sure that they're getting good contact with soil to gain any nutrients and water, and also to help make it a nice sturdy tree. There we are, lovely. Now I've got a bit more soil. What I'm going to do first is water it. Just might as well reuse that water we had before, because we've got a nice sort of well here for it all to drain into. Fabulous. Now whilst that's soaking in, it'll take a little while because we've got quite a bit of rain. The last thing I'm going to do is just give it a light prune. So this tree at the minute is just really like a tree whip or a maiden. So it's just one long stem coming from the roots up to the top. I don't want that. I want it to branch out and open out and eventually form a nice goblet shape, because that's going to be what's best for growing and ripening apples and keeping them healthy. So what I'm going to do to encourage that is just take it down a bit. And I'm probably going to cut it about there. I don't want to take off too much, so I'm just going to make a snip just there. And that will hopefully encourage lots of new branches to come off from there. And we can show you one that we did last year so you can see exactly what happens. So this is the neighbouring tree to the one we just planted. This is a Captain Broad that I planted this time last year. Just like the Cornish Aromatic, it was a single straight stem going up to the top. I made a cut at the top, and what it's done is it's put out these 5 branches in a nice goblet shape, which is ideal then for growing apples. Okay, our pear tree is now in position as well, so it's all watered in. Well, it's been given its water, it's just soaking through. Like I say, it's quite damp at the minute, so it's going to take a while to soak through, but it's going to really benefit from that to help get its roots going. You'll notice that this pear tree is quite different in its structure to the apple, so it's got lots of branching stems already. I actually quite like that, and I'm going to keep it. The one thing I am going to change and cut out though is any that are crossing through the centre. So we've got this one here, which I'm just going to cut out because it's crossing through the centre. So I'm going to take it right back to the stem, and that's all this one needs this year, so that's fab. The next fruit I'm going to plant are going to be some raspberries. So I've got some to the left of me here, which are a variety called Glen. We planted them year before last because they're a summer fruiting variety, so you wouldn't get crop till the year after they were planted because they fruit on second year growth. Anyways, they were absolutely delicious. Like, I made some jam out of the fruit, and oh my god, they were incredible. It tasted like the jam you get in a jam donut. So really, really good. So we're going to try and grow some more. I've got some more bare root plants here that have just been delivered. So I've soaked them in water like we did with the apple and pear tree. And the bed behind me here, which is just going to be an extension of the raspberry bed I already have, I've just treated like I did the strawberries. So dug it over, cleared out all the weeds, and dug in some organic material. So some of the old chicken manure, which is rotted down, and some bloodfish and bone, just to give them the best start that they possibly can. Now the first thing I'm going to do is take away the old marker for the end of the bed, which was just here, so that it will just be a nice one long strawberry bed. And then the plants need to be 45 centimetres apart. And then, like the apple tree and pear tree, we want to bury it in line with where the old soil line would have been, so it's about there. So first off I need to get my measuring tape. Okay, and I'll go 45 centimetres from the last plant, which is about there. About here. And then just dig it in. And firm it down. I'll do the rest of the row and water them in. Once they've started growing, once I see some little shoots popping up later on in spring, probably sort of March, April time, once I see that green growth, I'll cut this right back down to the base. That way it's going to encourage the plant to send out lots of new shoots for next year to then set fruit. So we'll still get the fruit from last year's canes from our old plants, but we won't get any from these new ones. Well, there we are. We've got loads more fruit in the garden now, and I just can't wait to harvest it in the summertime. It's going to be absolutely delicious. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a big like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers.